Hi everybody, it's Les McKeown here, President and CEO of Predictable Success, and we're back with another in the series of the Predictable Success interviews, in which I talk with people who have either themselves and or with other people achieved that state that we call predictable success. And today I'm absolutely delighted to be speaking to someone who, I will be absolutely honest, is in a small category of my genuine business heroes. Guy called David Hieatt. We're going to hear a little bit about what David's up to in a moment. But for the moment, welcome to the show, David. Good to have you here.
Thank you very much, Les. And I wish I was over there in person, actually. But Skype is a good way of talking to. So
it is once you get the technology right, as we've just discovered. Yeah. I first met David through something called the Do Lectures, and in my perception, the Do Lectures are probably the greatest undiscovered asset available in the business community today. And normally what we do in these series is we start from the back end and we get our guests to talk about their background. But I'd love if you could start actually by just explaining what the Do Lectures are, David, and then tell us a little bit about how you started them.
Well, it's an incredibly small event, and because it's 30 speakers, it's 80 to 100 attendees, and everybody gathers in on the edge of West Wales at a place called Forest, and it's everybody eats together, drinks together, listens together, talks together. And the magic of the Do Lectures is listening to the talks is great and it's important, but because they're together for 4 days, it's the talk after the talks that matters. And sometimes the things that work against you actually in the end work for you. And the fact that it's very, very, very far away means that actually the speakers don't leave. So they commit to the time, and at that point, they say, well, once a point, so they're very focused on staying, and actually 99% actually do stay. The other thing is actually there's really bad internet.
Right.
So they literally have to switch off. And the other thing that's really going for it is there's a place at Forest, and actually one in Campo Vida in California, where the extraordinary nature of the place takes you to another place, so you switch off as well. So in a way, all your senses are sort of calmed, and you're very receptive. And it is a gathering of some brilliant minds. And the most fantastic thing is people talk to each other. And it kind of sounds a bit contrite, but it's very easy to go to conferences and listen to a great talk and then go home. And actually, in a strange way, this event does the opposite. And you have to think about what you see, but you also have to talk about it because you're sitting next to, and it's very random. You can talk to a speaker, you can talk to an attendee, and actually nobody knows who's who until the speakers get up and talk.
Right. And how and why did you start it?
I was reading about one of my favorite brands called Patagonia, and they do a tools camp twice a year, and it's to teach people the tools of being an activist. And I thought, well, it's typical of Patagonia, where it's a fantastic idea. But I also kind of thought, well, actually, that's great for 80 to 100 people. But actually, why don't we film it? And why don't we make that available to millions? And about the same time as I was reading that, my friend Tony Davison sent me a text, and it said, Dick Dastardly was right. Don't just stand there, do something. And myself and Claire over dinner last night, and we were running Howie's at the time, and we said, it's great that we make clothes, and everybody loves the company, but actually, what do we do? And then we started talking about doers, and actually the people we get inspired people by are the people who've done great things. And I think that's got us thinking, why don't we do something and try and bring all those doers together? And in the hope that they would inspire the rest of us to go and do amazing things too.
Right. And how close, you've been doing it now for how many years, David?
It's been going for 5 years.
Right.
So
and how close now, the point that you're at now, and you look at what, you just had one recently and you've got another one coming up in September, how close is it to your vision?
I think it's very close, and I think the mixture and eclecticness of the people is really what I wanted it to be, and but I wanted it to be the ultimate mashup of ideas, music, food, place. So it's very, very close to what I dreamt about it has been, and it's probably reached its optimum size. In terms of that small event.
So do you have plans to, well, before we get to that, before we get to where it might go, can you give the folks a bit of a sense of the type of thing, what in terms of speakers, who's really spoken to you recently? What have been your highlights? What's the sort of flavor of the type of thing that people will encounter when they attend?
Well, we pick from about 7 different categories, and one could be business, one could be sport, one could be food, one could be tech, one will be local, and it is that that eclectic mix which makes it magical, because sometimes you're just about to hear a talk and go, what could I possibly learn from this girl or guy? But there's all sorts to be gleaned from these different people, and the ones that have caught my eye this year, for this spring, Tim Smith came and talked about what he'd done at the Eden Project, and I don't know if your audience will know that, but it's outside of London. It's Britain's biggest visitor attraction, and covers a subject which is not, to some people, not that interesting, plant life and nature, but it is absolutely a huge success. So he gave a very maverick talk, and I thought that was fantastic. I thought James Victor from New York, a graphic designer, really got everybody bubbling. And Sean from Falling Whistles did a most monumental, heart-rendering talk. So they can be from NGOs to big businesses to local growers to bakers. And it really is, from a knife maker in Brooklyn, there's a very odd mix, but actually when you put it all together, it actually makes a lot of sense.
I can completely attest to that. When I was there last year, I remember reading through the speaker list, and I'd look at people's names and titles and what they did and what they were going to talk about, and I'll be really honest with you. In advance, I'd look at some of these and I'd think, there's just nothing in this topic that I have any interest in. I didn't miss a single minute of one of those. I was gripped by every single presentation, and there's something that is. It's really ephemeral. There's definitely a magic about the place and the way people, as you say, we're sort of forced to spend time together. That just produces something that's magic. And I remember Cheeto talking about the mushrooms. Just unbelievable stuff. And this tall, thin guy with a beanie cap gets up, with Nick Hand, to talk about, cycling around Britain. And, Nick and I are now firm friends. I met him when he's out here in New York, and, I got to meet his wife. And just the friendships, and I'm sure you've heard this a lot, the whole sense of being a doer, having been there, is, it's very strong in my life, and anybody else who's been there, exactly the same thing.
It is, it's, friendships are made there, and you never know where this stuff takes you, but.
Absolutely. And let's talk a little bit about your next 5 years. I don't know to what degree you plan medium and long term. Do you just do this each year and let's see what happens, or do you have new things that you'd like to see happen?
Well, I think, we should plan things. I always kind of say to myself, well, if it's brilliant, we'll carry it on.
Right.
And then the first day happens, and I'm going, oh no, here we go again. It's bloody brilliant again. The plan, the 5-year plan is can we go and get 1,000 talks up online? And as a resource, then that becomes something quite amazing. And I think it's got potential to be a really important resource. So I mean, that's our plan. I'd love to do lectures in India. I'd love to do one in Australia. I'd love to do one in Spain. So I mean, I think, but we've got to work that out. We're doing one in California in September, and that's in its second year, and that's done really well. So it's kind of and the Welsh government here are asking us, can we do a festival? And so we bring a big audience to the town.
Right.
And I like that aspect where the idea of the town, ideas and music can come together. So we're thinking about that. But I mean, I suppose like anything, we've got to concentrate on being brilliant.
Right.
And see where that takes us. And because a lot of people make the comparison, oh, you're like TED. But the only thing we have in common with TED really is the fact that, we have speakers who do talks and we record them online. I think for the event itself, we're very different to TED in as much as, the speakers and attendees come together. There are no differences. There are workshops, there are bands playing. There's, you're in a tent, it's raining, you're cold. There's communal eating, there's its own pub. And I think that's where the comparison kind of doesn't,
right.
We're kind of different to that.
As you push it out, I know you've got the US one and you were talking about India and Australia, for example. Do you aim for you and Claire to be involved with those, or do you want to find key people who will develop them? I know you've worked quite a lot with Duke Stump in the US, for example.
I mean, I think if we can find people who get it, and I think with Duke, I mean, he invites us over out of just interest for us, but I mean, he sort of picks all the speakers, and everything is taken care of. And that's what I wanted really, because I didn't want to do India and start picking speakers, because actually you need someone, a man or woman on the ground running it. Mm. And actually, and maybe the Wales one works because in a way that's my flavour, but right. Duke's flavour might be different. And I think you just got to give people, you got to let them fly, and don't clip their wings really.
So you put all of the talks up free online. People can go access them. Where's the best place for people to go get a flavour of the talks and find out about future events?
The dolectures.com website, it has all the talks up there and has anything that's happening or the event, all the details. So I think the website is probably the best way to get hold of us.
And the thing that really blows me away about all this, David, is that it's not as if you're sitting around doing this full time. You actually run a business. You mentioned in passing a moment ago that you had a business called Howie's before you started to do lectures. Could you just talk a little bit, share with our folks what that was, a bit about its history, and lead us into your new business, your current venture?
Yeah, I started a clothing company called Howie's in 1995, and for the first 6 years we did it as a bit of a hobby, and we kind of fell in love with the hobby. So myself and Claire moved back down from London down to Wales, and we did Howie's full time. We grew it, and it grew really fast, and in a way a little bit too fast. So we kind of needed to find somebody to team up with. In the end, we sold Howie's to Timberland, and that wasn't really. It wasn't really what we wanted, and it wasn't a great time. So I think in the end we tried to buy it back. They didn't want to sell it, and in the end they sold to VF. So we kind of left Howie's, and I remember like walking down the stairs and thinking to myself and shutting the door on Howie's after 15 years of building something up, going, oh, what am I going to do now? I was really smitten with jeans. I loved the way that they, would get better with age. I loved the fact that, creative people wore them. And I oddly lived in a town that knew how to make great jeans. I mean, our town used to make 35,000 pairs of jeans a week.
Wow.
For 3 to 4 decades. And then one day the factory closed, but all that skill remained. And I kind of wrote the plan pretty much soon after I left Harry's, and then I sent it to all my investors, and I said, do you know what, do you want to do this? And they all came back to me and said, we love it, let's do it. And I said to them, I think I'm not sure if I want to run around the same track twice. And so I put the plan aside for a year. And then one day the old designer phoned me up and he said, why aren't you doing the plan? We all loved it. I said, well, to be honest, I hadn't worked out the why of it. And he said it to me, I thought it was all about getting the town making jeans again. And we had discussed that, and actually the economics weren't as daft as I thought they were going to be. And it was like sort of that moment where you go, oh, of course, that's what we're going to do. That's why we're going to go and build a nice global denim brand, because our town, needs to get back to making jeans again.
That's great.
And I knew that you can't build a great brand just on sentiment. And we got a lovely story, the story of our town making jeans again. And we also knew that, we have to do something with great skill. So we have to do, like the most amazing quality jean that we can. And that puts us up there with the best. But even that alone, with a great sentiment and a great quality product, you still need something else to go and change the denim industry. And I'm pretty convinced that the way for us to succeed is to bring ideas to the denim industry. It hasn't changed in 100 years. When I looked at a pair of Levi's in the Levi's store in San Francisco from 1876 or whatever it was, they nailed it. They absolutely nailed it. And actually it hasn't changed at all.
Right.
There's washes and various bits, and it's all bits around the edges. But the one thing I noticed was, actually, if you make a great product to last, I kind of noticed that actually those products that last can tell great stories about you.
Right.
And I thought, there's like two roads coming together, and one is, what I call Luddite, where great companies who want to make things to last. And actually, the geek road, which is the internet's ability to tell stories.
Right.
And where those two things come together is really where a thing that we call the history tag works. And that's essentially a way of attaching memories to the products that we buy. So, for example, you'd get a pair of jeans, you'd have a unique number. When you get them, you register that number onto the historytag.com website, and you'll see 6 or 7 pictures of your jeans being made. But at that point, then you can decide whether you want to upload pictures in its future.
Right.
And the purpose is so if they ever get handed down or they end up in a second-hand store, and that's a thriving jeans market, the memories will go with them too. And I kind of love that notion. I think there's a deep-rooted desire for all of us.
I think it's a wonderful idea.
And I think, each pair of jeans is going to have a different story.
Including mine, which I believe are being made this month.
Yes, they are. And I know it hasn't been the quickest of jeans, but they are fantastic.
How has your first few months experience been like compared to what you had anticipated?
Well, the brilliant thing about business plans is they're always perfect, which I love. But then you start. For us, we didn't anticipate the level of demand. We thought we'd have a nice, gentle baptism. But we got hit quite hard. We almost got 3 months worth of orders in the first couple of weeks.
Wow.
And when you're geared up to make 10 pairs a day, with the help of strong coffee and great music, that's a bit of a test.
So you accelerated through early struggle, past fun, and right into whitewater in the first month and a half. By the
yeah, we went straight there. And so, we're kind of hiring more machinists, we're managing the process of trying to keep everybody happy. And also, we're a bit surprised that, shops from Japan have been coming down to us, and, people from, shops in France going, can we stock this? And you're going, ooh.
Wow.
So it's been a nice surprise. So we're just kind of managing that. I guess, we've built brands before, and we kind of know we're comfortable around doing that.
Right.
But I guess we haven't done manufacturing before, and that's been an interesting one. And fortunately, this town is full of machinists, and we just need to go and hire them and that. So it's a lovely problem to have, but it's still still a problem that needs to be solved.
And tell us a little bit, just before we come to a close, tell us a little bit about the Grandmasters.
Well, I think, Malcolm Gladwell wrote about doing 10,000 hours. And after 10,000 hours, you get pretty good at it. And he called it was based on the chess grandmasters, where after 10,000 hours, you become a grandmaster. And I love that notion of, there comes a point in your life where you get really good at something. And for us, the machinists that we were going to hire, they'd had, 10, 15, 20, 25 years of experience. So they were grandmasters upon grandmasters. And for us, when you're a startup and you've got over 100 years worth of experience making jeans, kind of bodes really well, actually.
Sure.
Because, that you got some really, experienced people around you. And we are ambitious in as much as we want to go and build a global denim company, and actually, so we can get 400 people their jobs back, which is ultimately a crazy dream right now when there's 10 of us. But I kind of, I guess like you, Les, you get to a point where you've studied your thing, and you have to practice your art at some point.
Right, absolutely. And we don't have time in this call, but I'd love in some future call, and maybe also a couple of years down the line from now, when maybe the rawness of startup is a fond memory. There's got to be a fascinating story in there of bringing visionary leadership, an expansionist mindset, and working with a group of people who are essentially artisans and traditionalists, and who have the knowledge locked away in their head of mechanically making this thing, and just juggling all of that must be fun. But we'll maybe get you back to come talk about that separately when you've got through the hump. I know you stopped taking orders just momentarily while you catch up with demand, but when people do want to go see what Hieatt Denim's all about, where can they best go?
Go to hieattdenim.co.uk, and we're just about, hopefully, the next 4 to 5 weeks getting over the hump. But just to finish up, I'll tell you one story which is relevant to what you just said. Is Claudio, who cuts our jeans, has 38 years of experience of cutting jeans, and he said to me, what I was really worried about, Dave, is I wouldn't have anybody to pass my skills on to. And I just went, oh man, that's why we've got to make this work. And sometimes ideas are very timely. If we'd left this idea another 10 years, we wouldn't be able to have done it. And
all of that skill would have been lost?
It would have been lost. So it's so it was kind of timely, and we've got to go and that's what galvanizes me. I'm going, right, okay, let's go and get this done.
Yeah, I can imagine when you get to the point that you're watching an apprentice learn from Claudio and get to Grandmaster level and him or herself, that's just going to be a wonderful sense of legacy. Hieatt Denim is hiattdenim.co.uk, and I recommend everybody to go there, see the story. I mean, just the story itself that you've got up on the website's magnificent. The jeans I'm eagerly anticipating are superb. Go to dolectures.com, try out some of the lectures, see what you think about it. I strongly, strongly, strongly recommend to everybody, get on a plane, go to the Do Lectures. I mean, for me, I can honestly say I'm in my fourth decade of business. It's the single biggest game changer that I ever attended in my entire life. There's just no doubt about that. I strongly, strongly recommend it. David, both you and Claire have got my highest admiration, and I hope you'll come back in a couple of years and tell us how Hieatt Denim has got on.
Thank you very much.